Appreciate it. This is actually my very first webinar I've ever done. It's a little weird to me because usually when you're in front of a bunch of people, you kind of get a little nervous, and, which is good. You kind of build that up. But right now, I'm sitting in my room in my Brewer Stadium chair, and it's, just I don't see anybody, which is probably pretty interesting. But we'll go ahead and do it, and it'll be fun. So I have 3 objectives for this webinar. First one, I'd like to inspire everybody to adopt the entrepreneurial mindset. And second of all, I'd like to inspire everybody to take action. And third, I'd like to create a community to help us all support each other. We have, as Asian Americans, there's some cultural things that make it a little bit harder for us to become entrepreneurs, and it's been nice to have a community to help support each other for that kind of thing. So why be an entrepreneur? For me, this probably sums it up the best. I'm a little different. I'm not quite the typical, I want to go get venture capital funding and do a startup and be Mark Zuckerberg and become CEO of Facebook. I think the thing that really sums it up why I want to be an entrepreneur is this is one of my favorite podcasts. It's called the Solopreneur Hour. And at the beginning of every podcast, he has this quote, and the quote is, "With the right mindset, the right environment, and the right key decisions, we can all become successful solopreneurs with time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom." And those 3 things, those 3 freedoms are really why I hope to be successful in this endeavor and why I keep pushing for it and keep trying for it. One way I can illustrate this is, I don't know how many of you read on the Facebook posts the description, and I said one of the reasons why, one of the reasons why it's great to be an entrepreneur is I'm writing this in a pool in Biloxi, Mississippi, and this is literally where I wrote that. So I was on a road trip from the NAP National Conference in Dallas. After the Dallas convention, I went out to Biloxi to catch my baseball team, the Milwaukee Brewers. They're AA minor league team that plays at Biloxi. So I wanted to check them out, and I got to stay in the Beau Rivage Hotel and casino outside of there, and I got to do some work out on the pool deck. So this is kind of like gives me the location and time freedom to be able to do stuff like this. One of the things I really like to do is I really love top 10 lists. I really love David Letterman's top 10 lists, but a lot of times when I'm watching it, I actually feel like I can do a better job than some of the stuff that he puts on there. But I thought I'd come up with my own top 10 list, and just kind of to illustrate the entrepreneurial lifestyle that I'm living and hope to keep living. I came up with the top 10 things that no one feels sorry for me about. So since we're in a webinar, I can't really hear if anyone's laughing, so I'm just going to talk and then hope you guys enjoy it. We'll start out with number 10. Number 10, in the summer, I don't wear socks or long pants for weeks at a time. And actually, frankly, the only time I do wear long pants, I remember the one time I did was because I had a NAP meeting to go to, a local Milwaukee chapter meeting. So that's one of the benefits when it's warm out. Number 9, I have no one to hang out with during the day because everyone's at work. Number 8, I can't get any work done on the weekends because everybody wants to do something. Number 7, I'm always the first to social events because I hang out at coffee shops beforehand to avoid the traffic. I'm always first. I'm always waiting for everyone else to get off of work to get to when we go to our events. Number 6, I get annoyed with traffic because I've gotten used to driving during off hours. I can't think of the last time I drove during rush hour traffic. And in Milwaukee, I'm sure there's a lot of other cities that have the same problem. There's a lot of construction going on. And I remember driving through these construction areas and thinking, boy, this must suck during rush hour traffic. But I never had to drive through it during rush hour traffic. Number 5, I work outside so much I had to rig up an extension cord to keep my laptop charged, and this is literally what it looks like. Nice little outside office there with the Tremor Breeze smoker in the background. That's one of my business ventures that I'm doing. Number 4, TGIF is meaningless to me. Number 3, on my recent road trip to the NAP National Convention in Dallas, I had a hard time finding places to nap. I usually I take pretty much every day, I take a nice nap after lunch. And since I was on the road trip, I have a different hotel every night because I was going to different cities. So it was a hard time finding a place to take a nap in the afternoon. So I'm sure nobody feels sorry for me about that. Number 2, I lost the best napper title in the family. My nephew was born. He's 4 months old. Number 1, the last time I set an alarm was to catch a plane to Vegas. So those are the top 10 things that no one feels sorry for me about. Just give me a little taste of my life. Let me tell you a little bit more about myself, my background. I'm a graduate of the University of Wisconsin with a chemical engineering degree in 2000. For those college football fans out there, this is the 4 years of Ron Dane, the Heisman Trophy winner and the leading rusher, record-breaking rushing leader. I went from Madison in Wisconsin to Cincinnati, Ohio to join Procter & Gamble Company starting in 2000. During my P&G stint, I worked in research and development and in engineering for fabric and home care, so the Tide, Downy, Bounce, and their new business development areas. During my stint at P&G, got a MBA from Xavier University. You see the picture in the upper right-hand corner there. Took 6 years to get it. Took my time. It was paid for by the company, so it was great value to me. They were my parents. They came to visit during my graduation, and one of the funny things, my mom actually, when she visited the campus, she actually was surprised and said, "Wow, this is a real school." So obviously it wasn't Harvard, it wasn't Yale, but to her it was a real school. Finally, after that, actually after I left P&G, I went to a smaller company that licenses P&G brands and puts their name on their products. I worked there part-time, so kind of dabbled my way into entrepreneurship. So I worked there 3 days a week and founded Wild Ting Enterprises. Wild Ting is a name that a high school gym teacher gave me. Growing up, of course, the last name Ting has a lot of funny things that people like to make fun of me for, but that was the best name that was ever said to me. So under that, I started the Bucko Soap Scum Cleaner. Again, this is my P&G experience. What I tell people is nobody dreams of becoming a bathroom cleaner business owner, but I was opportunistic and took what I learned and started selling this product. I now have a second product as well that's out there. And then also a barbecue smoker, a high-end barbecue smoker. That's the Breeze. I'm just showing how well it insulated because the snow doesn't melt off of it even though it's cooking at 250 degrees. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell. Started off as a typical good Asian kid going in an engineering degree, getting an MBA, working for a big company, and then it all went downhill from there. So why pre-successful? I put that in the title. What I want to let you guys all know is I don't consider myself successful yet. One of the first success milestones I have for myself is to be able to make enough money so I can support myself, cover my own living expenses. Right now I'm living off savings. One of the nice things about starting at a corporation first is you can take a pretty nice paycheck and get started and save and invest, and so you have enough savings to kind of tide you over for a while. I like to get to the point where I'm not burning through savings, and so that's why I'm not considering myself successful yet. The reason why I think you should still listen is because I feel like I have the struggle that I'm struggling with it like everyone else does, and hopefully that makes me more relatable to the people that are kind of trying to get into it, and it just kind of shows that it's hard and it's this is one step of the journey. And for the people that are ahead of me on this and are making good money on doing their own business, hopefully you can look back and see how far you've come and give yourself a pat on the back for going through all these struggles. So that's why I like to emphasize that I'm pretty successful right now. So I have 3 topics for today I'd like to do. One, talk a little bit about entrepreneuring while Asian. This is NAF sponsored, and there's a lot of interesting cultural things that have to do with being Asian. I'd like to change your mindset about entrepreneurship. 2 things. One, we have some people that are corporate minded, and some people who they think entrepreneurship is billions of dollars of funding and becoming a CEO of Facebook or Google. Yeah, that is one way, but there's also another mindset I think that's better to do that you can apply right now. And then the third thing, again, what you can do right now to get started. One of the things about entrepreneurship is just go do something. Don't think about it too much. So I'd like to kind of hope to inspire you to go do something right now. So we'll start a little bit about being Asian. I posted this. We have a entrepreneurial Asian Americans group on Facebook, and I posted this, and I asked if anybody has any thoughts that they'd be interested in hearing, and Tim Wong, I don't know if he's on the call or not, but Tim Wong said, what are the unique challenges that Asian American entrepreneurs must face, which Caucasians typically do not experience? My answer to that was Asian parents. Kind of a snarky answer, but kind of true too. It's a little different. We have a little bit of different challenge than others do, and kind of like to talk a little bit about that. I also have Asian parents. I love them very much. They're great, and kind of talk a little bit about how I went through that. So I'd like to introduce somebody to you, a special guest. It's the Asian father meme. It's the high expectations Asian dad. And this is the guy right here. I know many of you have seen him. He's going to help us through. He's going to give some of his wisdoms, and we're going to talk a little bit through them. His first wisdom is, son, you can be anything you want, doctor or engineer. One of the things that entrepreneurship is it's not part of this holy Asian trinity, the doctor, lawyer, engineer trinity, and maybe even now the fourth thing, which is accountant. I don't know what you call a four-point trinity, but basically there's those four things. Entrepreneurship does not fall in that category, so it is a little difficult for us to have to come up with our own way, find our own role models, and kind of maybe go against what your parents think are the right thing to do. I have a great slide that illustrates this. So this is a origami. I had the pleasure of being able to correspond with this guy named Kevin Yu. We actually tried to get him to speak in Dallas, but he wasn't able to. He was traveling. And he's a musician who also into business, and he actually had this brilliant idea and is now executing on it. He's basically taking tuxedo shirts, and what I think of it as tux shirts crossed with Under Armour. When you wear these tux shirts, many performers, if you know, you get under the lights and you start playing Mahler's First Symphony or whatever, and you start going at it. It gets really hot, and you start sweating. And why are tux shirts made out of this nasty cloth that gets really hot? Why can't it be like an Under Armour shirt that wicks sweat and keeps cool? And so he had that thought, and he went off and he designed a product for it, and he posted it. I actually saw it on Facebook. One of the NAP Dallas people posted it, and man, it was a great idea, and it went viral. He was getting stuff from all over the place, and he actually sent me an email. I actually asked him a little bit to introduce myself, and he actually sent me an email with this quote, and I want to share it with you guys. It's wonderful. He says, Origami, which is the name of his company, was the top story on the New York Times Arts section today. NBC, BBC, Times of London just reached out. My mom is still disappointed that her son didn't become a doctor. So that's kind of typical of what we deal with. This guy can be a millionaire, billionaire with this awesome product, and we're still, our parents probably still wish he was a doctor. If you want to check it out, I've got the links in the bottom. This is quite an amazing product. The other angry Asian dad meme, if first you don't succeed, don't come back home. So the idea of failure and how where failure is not an option and something you don't want to do. With entrepreneurship, failure is very important. You have to do it a lot, and you have to get used to it, and you have to celebrate it. What I think about this is I compare my parents' story and my story, and talk about risk-taking. My parents, after college, they left Taiwan to go to a completely foreign country. They didn't speak the language, didn't have much money, no idea what the culture is like, and they only had a blind faith that they would figure things out and have a better life. My dad actually went from Taipei, Taiwan to Milwaukee to go to Marquette University, talk about a culture shock, to go from a warm tropical Taiwan climate to a Milwaukee climate. And I said the culture, that's a huge risk that he took. One of my favorite stories he tells me was when he was in his first meal in the U.S. in Milwaukee was a sub sandwich, and he said it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So, this is what my parents did. What I did, after 10 years of work experience in an MBA, I left Procter & Gamble with a savings and a 401k on the blind faith that I would eventually have a successful business, but if I didn't, I could leverage my P&G experience and my network to go get another job. So I asked this question: who's taking the bigger risk here? I have a lot of respect for my parents, and a lot of your parents probably kind of did the same thing. they took a huge risk to go out and do something and get a better life for themselves. My risk is minuscule compared to what they're doing. So I'm going to give a little bit of free therapy here. You should give up on making your parents happy, because it is literally impossible to. Sometimes Asian parents will contradict themselves. One of my favorite is this one here. You're getting fat, why are you eating more? So Asian parents like to tell you you're getting fat or you're getting big, and then they keep feeding you and say you need to eat more. So these are it's just impossible, physically, literally impossible to please them. However, one thing that I've learned is you need to forgive your parents. They're not perfect, nobody's perfect, and they're doing what they have been taught is the right thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. So if you can forgive your parents and go about that way, it'll make your decision to take risks a lot easier. One of my favorite quotes that I had was by the comedian Rajiv Sachel. He is a guy that came in and actually spoke to NAP Cincinnati a while back. He actually left Procter & Gamble, kind of similar to me, to become a comedian. Now talk about going against the Asian values. Comedian, I think, ranks right up there with probably artist, English major, probably in there in terms of the Holy Asian Trinity or the Holy Asian list of jobs. He said it best. His quote was, "My parents were supporters but not believers." And the thought was, I call supporters getting support from my parents. It's kind of like the cross. If you take unconditional love and you add it to I have no control over my son anyway. If you add those two things together, they become supporters. And actually, to me, my parents, didn't quite get what I was doing when I first left, but they supported me, and they still do. And actually, that actually means a lot more to me than people who actually were believers and supported me. They didn't know why I was doing this and didn't really get it, but supported me anyway. So I guess what I want to say is it may not be that bad. If you want to do something different, your parents may be okay. So I kind of want to illustrate a little bit how my parents have been very supportive of me. This is my dad's garage. He's let me put, this is before Amazon, let me put a whole bunch of inventory in his garage. Basically squeezed out most of the room out there. This is the Bucko ironing spray, the new product. So I have free inventory, and in addition to that, they actually helped me with a bunch of manual labor. Happily did it, was excited about it, that they could help me out. These bottles actually had the wrong sprayer in them when they were made and manufactured. So we had to go off, take out the old sprayer, put in the new sprayer for over 600 bottles. So over the course of a week, we did a little bit at a time, and had a pretty good time doing it. So they've come around, and I think they're starting to believe. I think they're mostly there. But they're just, it's not that bad. They still love me, and things are great. So hopefully that can inspire people to go do what they think is right for them to do. So, end of therapy session. We're going to start talking a little bit about the entrepreneurial mindset. I was talking a little bit before about how being an entrepreneur is not what some people think it is. And the entrepreneurial mindset is something I'm going to get into next here. And I'd like to start it off by playing a little clip from Chris Rock here. Let's see if I can get this thing to go.
That's right, man. You better have some medical insurance or you're going to die. That's right. Everybody, who you can eat right and exercise? No, you don't. You need some coverage. Coverage will save your life. That's right. I mean, we all gonna die, but at least if you got some coverage, you will die on a mattress. That's right, man. When I was a kid, we didn't have no insurance. We didn't have a damn thing. You had to be damn near dead to see the doctor. That's why you had to be way past Robitussin. That's all we had when I was a kid, Robitussin. No matter what you got, Robitussin better handle it. Daddy, I got asthma, Robitussin. I got cancer, Robitussin. I broke my leg, Daddy, put Robitussin on it. Yeah, boy, let that tussin get
Chris Rock with a really awesome. I mean, he's just really good. You've got the audience laughing at everything he says. He's got hard hitting, funny stuff. I actually had to make sure I paused it in time because he was gonna drop an F-bomb in there pretty closely. So glad I caught it in time. Get back onto here. So he's a great comedian. He's got this great show. People are laughing like crazy. He's hilarious. Why is that? It's because he's really talented? Is it because he's just really good at it? Well, actually, before he goes to all these shows, this is from an excerpt from the book Little Bets, one of my favorite books. I'll read through this a little bit. In gearing up for his last global tour, he made between 40 and 50 appearances at a small comedy club called Stress Factory, New Brunswick. His sets run about 45 minutes, and most of his jokes fall flat. He rambles, he loses train of thought, and audience members will sit notably unimpressed. He may think he comes up with the best joke ever, but if it keeps missing with audiences, that becomes his reality. Other times, a joke he thought would be a dud will bring the house down. There are 5 or 10 lines during the night that are ridiculously good, like lightning bolts. My sense is that's what he starts with and then writes around them. So Chris Rock basically goes into this small comedy club and just tries out a whole bunch of material and tries to find the little things that work out. So for 45 minutes, there's only 5 or 10 lines that are good. So the moral of the story here is he doesn't know what's going to work. He just goes out and tests things until he finds out what does work, and he builds off of that. So we need to be able to put that in with entrepreneurship. So the thought is when you have an idea is what you should do. What should you do next? Everybody thinks maybe you should create a business plan, go look for investors, or get a patent. The answer is none of that. The real thing you need to do is go to that small comedy club and test it out and figure out what part of your idea is good. Because your idea mostly sucks, it's worthless, and it won't work. So you have to test it out and find those little lightning bolts that are good, and build off of those. So the moral of the story is your idea sucks. So what are you waiting for? Get started. Go for it. You want to test it like crazy. Test it. You want to learn how to fail fast, fail cheaply. At P&G, I worked in the fabric and home care area. We made Downy fabric softener, and we were told to make your mistakes in the lab and your profits at the plant. The Downy fabric softener is made in Lima, Ohio. Probably all of North American liquid fabric softeners are made there. You don't want to go in there and try something out, because if it doesn't work, it's probably millions of dollars down the drain. You want to do these kind of things in the lab at small scale and test them out and fail all you want. Nobody's going to care. So you find something good, then you scale it up, and then you work your way up there. You don't start with the expensive thing and fail big. You fail small. So I have a few case studies, some ways to help you think about it. One of the ideas most people have is they want to create an app. I want to create an app that does this, or I want to create an app that does that. The first thing you should do when you create an app is not to go find somebody, try to program it, or try to find money to hire somebody to program it. First thing you should really do is open a PowerPoint and not create a business plan, but to create a whole bunch of graphics and a whole bunch of buttons and stuff that illustrates what your app is going to do. You can basically create a prototype or a mock-up. When you click on one of those buttons, have it switch to another slide and test that out. You'll be amazed what you learn if you do that. You'll learn that your idea probably wasn't that great and needs a lot of tweaking. And once you get to the point where you have all these ideas that are fleshed out and good to go, you have a prototype that you can give to the programmer who can do something with it. You talk about food. A lot of people like to open restaurants or want to open a food truck. Here's another one of my favorite bloggers, a guy named Neville. He's actually Indian American, so it'd be great to get him to come talk to Nap someday. And he talks about how to validate a taco stand. So people want to do like a food truck or a restaurant. And he says typically what people do is they start researching licenses and city permits, start doing all this stuff. And I apologize for the bad version that's coming up. But this is what typically they would do. What he's saying to do instead of doing that, because you might fail at it or probably will, is to do this. Start by making a bunch of tacos. Take it to some location. Use some markers and poster board, create a table, and sell it there. And you'll learn so much by doing that. And and most you're going to spend is a few bucks just making these tacos. So you're going to learn all this stuff here just by going and doing this simple test. So your first step is not to go buy a restaurant, spend $500,000 and try to start a restaurant. First step is not even necessarily go buy a $30,000 food truck. Go out and test it. Figure out a way to fail fast, and learn a lot from it. The last thing is a service. Like a service business idea is a lot easier, actually. It's more straightforward. Give it away for free. Try to get people to sign up and just try it out and get people to give you feedback on it, and then just keep working on that. So here's another problem. You don't have time. It's a crying baby. Everyone's whining. You're so busy. I'm doing nap work. I've got kids. I've got whatever. You don't have time. Well, can you spare 10 minutes a day? This is something that this is another one of my favorite books. Achieve your someday dreams in 10 minutes a day. Basically, what it's saying is take your goal, chunk it down all the way back. Take your goal and say, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Keep doing that until you get down to a task that you can do in 10 minutes. And if you start working on it and doing it every day for 10 minutes, you'd be amazed how far you can get. And I have another little clip here that will help illustrate that. Another one of my favorite movies. Oops.
At Outback, steak and unlimited shrimp is back.
Oops. Well, you guys are going to have to watch the Outback video because I had it up and then I closed it by accident. So this webinar brought to you by Outback. Just kidding, it's brought to you by
the surface of the eye you're familiar with, you can see. In 1966, Andy Dufresne escaped from Shawshank Prison. All they found of him was a muddy set of prison clothes, a bar of soap, and an old rock hammer, damn near worn down to the nub. I remember thinking it would take a man 600 years to tunnel through the wall with it. Old Andy did it in less than 20. Oh, Andy loved geology. I imagine it appealed to his meticulous nature. An ice age here, million years of mountain building there. Geology is the study of pressure and time. That's all it takes, really. Pressure and time. That in a big goddamn poster. Like I said, in prison, a man will do most anything to keep his mind occupied. Turns out, Andy's favorite hobby was toting his wall out into the exercise yard. A handful at a time.
So this is the lesson from Shawshank Redemption. It's all it takes, really, pressure and time. So Andy Dufresne basically started with a little rock hammer, chipped away a little bit every day for 20 years, and then escaped out of prison. If he had just said, "Oh man, this is going to take forever. I've got this little rock hammer and this big wall. Forget it. I'm just going to go and do whatever I do in prison every day," he would still be there. So the fact that you can do a little bit at a time and then help you accomplish your goals, that works. So one of the neat things about trying to go into entrepreneurship at this moment, at this period of time, is it's really easy to make money now. I don't say it's not easy to make a lot of money. That takes a lot of work. But it's easy to have some sort of business model that'll help you make money. And I'm showing you 3 of these real quick. These ways. One is AdSense. This is a Google thing where you can basically put ads up on a website that you put in. And this is one of my sites here. It helps people. With football season coming, helps people pick their confidence pools. This is right here. This thing right here is an ad. And last year I got up to about $50 a month on this ad, making money on that. And this year it's still growing. People are still finding the site, and it's helping people win money. So I'm also hoping to make this a membership site. So that's one way. Another way, Amazon affiliates. Basically, you click, Amazon will send you a link if you put it on your website, and they click on it and they buy something. You get a cut of it, about 4 to 8%, depending on how much you sell. One of my previous ideas that I had put out there was a textbook website. This is for Xavier University back when I was just graduated. This is before people knew that they could buy textbooks on Amazon. And what I did is I listed all the different classes and what textbooks were required. It doesn't show this anymore. And I would show them how much they would save by buying on Amazon. They would click on the link, and boom, they buy their textbook. And sure enough, I get a cut of that. So that was another way to do it. And finally, you can also sell on Amazon. That's what I do with Bucko. Whatever thing you get, you put it on there. There's other things like Etsy. There's other websites like Etsy and eBay. Those are all things that you can just start making a buck on. And when you start thinking like that, how do I make a buck? That's the way to get going in your entrepreneurial journey. So I just wanted to recap entrepreneurial mindset. Remember the 2 R's: Robitussin and Rockhammer. Robitussin is who would have thought Robitussin would be funny, but apparently it is. With Chris Rock says it. Remember that you need to test your ideas, get them out there, and fail fast and learn from it. The Rockhammer is what Andy Dufresne used to ship out of Shawshank Prison over 20 years. So just take a lot of pressure and time and work on your venture a little bit at a time every day. If it's only 10 minutes, it's only 10 minutes. So what I like to do is I'd like to stay connected and let's help each other and support each other on this. Like I said, being Asian American, we might have a little bit different challenges, and it'd be great to have a community to stay together and support each other. One way to do that is through Mastermind Groups. This is one of my very favorite things to do. I have one Mastermind group. Basically what you do is you get 4 or 5 people together and you meet regularly. You talk about your ventures, your businesses, your failures, your challenges, and everybody helps each other, and it keeps you going. So I do this about once a month with a group of 4 people, and they've helped me tremendously. This is one thing we can do as a community to help each other out. Join the Entrepreneur Asian Americans Facebook group. This is a group that started. We have about 40 people in there. If you'd like to continue the conversation out there, it would then be a great place to go. If you had questions that aren't answered on this webinar, we can go ahead and start chatting about it there, and other people can chime in that are actually ahead of me, maybe people that are successful, and come out and help with. Also, I have my own website, daletang.com. It's nice to have an uncommon name, so it makes finding domain names easy. If you wanted to just put your email address on there and subscribe, I haven't put anything up yet, but I will send up a follow-up guide with all the blogs, books, podcasts, and all the stuff that I really love to read, and for you, then you can read them too. I'll send out a copy of the slides, and I'll send out also any updates for any organized mastermind groups, Asian entrepreneur organizations, or any other updates. So if you'd like to keep in touch that way, that's another way to do it as well. And finally, there's Asian organizations I'd be remiss not to mention. NAP, the National Association of Asian American Professionals, that sponsored this webinar. They're a great place to connect with people and to network. ACE is the Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship. Bill Amata, who is also involved with NAP, is one of the founders, I believe. He actually told me, I actually asked him about what they do, and he actually said he's very happy to help out where he can. And their mission is to address the needs, interests, and aspirations of business owners, entrepreneurs, and corporate leaders of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander heritage. So they're interested in helping out as well. And finally, I'd like to mention the Asian Entrepreneurship Foundation. This was started by a group out of Boston. Their mission is to using entrepreneurial thinking to help Asian Americans succeed. And Ian So, part of Boston, actually has one of the founders of this organization as well. So great places for you to get together and keep things going. So that's all I have. I think it's a good time to take some questions. We have some time for that.
say that one more time.
have,
You cut out a little bit.
yeah, go ahead and take some questions if we have any.
Yeah, let me go ahead and take a quick look to see if we have a questions. Oh, nope. We also, Arnell just briefly mentioned he's in the call tonight from Orange County, and he said to not forget about the Cal Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce, also a great resource. Dale, what are your thoughts on government organizations like Chamber of Commerce's?
The Chamber of Commerce, I actually just got introduced to the Peru. It was Albert Long's speech at the convention. I haven't done much with them, so it sounds like something a great place to go. I plan on checking them out, but I don't have any experience with it.
Okay, okay. So I know this is probably definitely a question that may be on everyone's mind, but definitely for college-age entrepreneurs out there and people who are in the workforce, there's just this fear of failing, fear of taking a step out. When you first started out, what did you? I'm pretty sure you had that same feeling of, I guess, oh no, what happens if I fail? What did you do to counter it when you first started out with your first venture?
Yeah, I absolutely had that, and it was because of that it took me 10 years to get to this point. I know you're in college right now. I think it's great that you're getting started early on this. But a lot of the things I did is kind of like what I talked about. Is first of all, you try to mitigate the risk. One way to do it is to save money and to not spend a lot of money. It's one way to start because it takes some time. I also went in there realizing that I will probably fail at most of the things I do. So don't blow all your cash, blow all your time on one thing. Try to fail as cheaply as possible and as much as possible. So those two things kind of tell them what I did.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Let's go ahead and see in the chat box if there are. Oh, we have one question, I do believe. Nope, that's just another notification. So if anyone else has questions, definitely take the time to write them out right now. But Dale, I guess another question would be for those of us who are in, across the country, how do you suggest like keeping in touch with people, building these relationships as we do our own startups, and as we're in a community that doesn't really value the the entrepreneurship like venture journey, and they want more of like a secure route, if that makes sense.
So the question is, how do we keep in touch?
Well, what would you suggest for reaching out and finding the communities in local areas, especially like Asian American focused entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think right now I feel like there is actually a vacuum there for like an organization or support group. So I think that's something that the AF group is trying to do, and something that ACE is also trying to do. Something that I'd like to get involved with as well. I think there's a nice niche there of things. So it's one reason why I opened up the Entrepreneur Asian American Facebook page. So if you guys can get in there and do something, or else just go ahead and send me an email too, and I'll try to keep a list together as we move along and make this happen.
Lee, it's Cindy. Can you hear?
All right. Yes.
There is actually 6 questions. I want to make sure that you got a chance to see your questions panel. I'll start off with one that comes from August.
Yes.
She asked, do you find that you have to be an expert in everything? That's a question for Dale. Or how do you weigh the pros and cons of using a professional accountant, for example?
What was the second part?
How do you weigh the pros and cons of hiring help, like a professional accountant?
I got you. So the first question was, do I feel like I need an expert at everything? And the answer is actually no, the opposite. I actually, well, I guess put it this way. What I say is that I know enough to be dangerous in a lot of things. I think that's a really good sign of an entrepreneur. But you don't have to be an expert at everything. In fact, that's part of the process is learning about it. There's a lot of stuff that I still don't consider myself an expert at all. One of the things you do need to know is where your weaknesses are and to go find help on that. And in terms of hiring professional help, yeah, it's one thing that I'm starting to get into now because at first I'm all about getting it in as cheaply as possible. Get something out there, try it out, get it going, figure things out. Once it gets to the point where it's starting to take off a little bit, like I think I'm getting there, hiring professional help would definitely be helpful. An accountant, actually, I started looking towards it. So, but I can't hire probably a professional grade accountant like August. She's probably too high. I probably can't afford to pay her. But so I need to get to that point of. I'm starting to get to that point.
Dale, another question comes from
Alrighty.
B, who asks if you have a patent on your own business, on your oven business. Sorry.
The smoker does have a patent, and the only reason why it does is because actually the partner that I'm working with, he was actually my mentor at P&G. He actually got a patent first, so he got the patent, and actually I think that business is probably good in the long term because it is patented, and patents do have value. I know I said the first thing you should do is get a patent. You shouldn't be to go get a patent. Patents do have a lot of value. They just cost a lot, and they again we talked about professional help. They probably require a patent lawyer for you to do that, and they're probably tens of thousands of dollars just to get going. I'm not saying patents are not important. They're definitely.
We have a patent lawyer amongst us.
What?
I think
I'm sure
Elizabeth Yang is a patent lawyer. She's a LA chapter president.
I didn't know if she was on or not, but yes, Elizabeth is. We put a plug in for Elizabeth. So I'm not saying patent. I think it's great to get a patent. I mean, they're very valuable. It just wouldn't be the first thing I do, and probably you can talk to Elizabeth or others about this. The first thing to do probably is go get a provisional patent. They're about, I think a few $100, and that's something I would consider doing first. And it gives you a year. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but what I've read is it gives you a year to work on your product to see if it is going to be viable before you file for a patent.
Alrighty, we have a lot more questions piling in. We have one from Lynn Fan. My apologies for if I accidentally said your name wrong. She asked, or Lynn asked, what type of people do you need to meet? How do you build an entrepreneurial team?
An entrepreneur team. So for me, one of the things coming back home to Milwaukee, or even when I was still in Cincinnati, it's actually kind of hard to meet other entrepreneurs because you're just by definition doing your own thing. At P&G, it was what 20, 30,000 people, how many employees in the area, and you need people all the time to help you out. A lot of cities now are kind of getting into this whole entrepreneurial kick. It seems like the only thing to do is to be startup this or the next Silicon Valley. So I think there's a lot of meetup groups. There's a lot of government-sponsored groups like this. I know in Milwaukee I've gone to a couple of them just to try to meet people through there. But again, I do think there is a need for a bigger community of this. I think entrepreneurship is going to be the next wave. The bigger companies now, I think they're starting to get smaller. P&G is a great example. They started selling off a bunch of their things. And it's because we have so many of these technologies and things like the Amazon and that kind of stuff to get things that can get smaller people that don't need as many resources to start. So I think there's a need there, but there's also a lot of organizations that are starting to do this kind of thing.
Okay. Another question from August. Do you go to trade shows to get your product out there?
I don't yet, and I think that's actually it's an opportunity for me to do that. I actually was thinking about doing that until Amazon started going. Right now, I'm actually focusing on Amazon because it's been selling so well on there. It just seems like the next thing to take off. And actually, my joke was like I've been listening to this podcast about how to sell on Amazon, and every one of these people are selling all these products they're sourcing from China to sell on Amazon. Actually, that's another opportunity, not to get off track. That's another opportunity for us as Asian Americans is we actually probably understand the culture and can speak the language better when dealing with a lot of these suppliers. These podcasts are teaching non-Asian people to go to China and source product. We can do that just as well, if not better, to bring it over to the U.S. and sell on Amazon. So I think that's the opportunity for us. But back to the question, I haven't done the trade shows yet. The quilting spray, I'm actually working on it. There's a lot of ladies that are interested in doing that, so I might tap into that resource. but I have not yet because it takes a lot, costs a lot of money and a lot of time to go do those.
Sounds good. We have a question from Jason Carney. He asks, what other ways are you marketing your products?
What other ways? So the Bucko, the soap scum cleaner is, well, I try to do it on a forum, community forum. They have a website for professional cleaners, new professional cleaners. Put an ad on that. That one didn't quite work. I've tried, let's see, the ironing spray. Actually, I'm about to buy an ad on a ironing spray on a quilting website. I feel like these things need to be on websites because they're sold only online right now. So to be able to click through and buy is probably a lot better return than something like in an ad. For the smoker, actually, we put an ad in the Kansas City Barbecue Society newsletter, and that actually worked pretty well, a paper ad. So that was like $60 a month. It wasn't that bad, and it looked like we got a lot of leads off of that. So those are some of the classic, little more of the classic advertising. Otherwise, really, it's Amazon advertising. It's just everything leads back to Amazon. Their advertising is pretty cool. It's cheap and it's very useful, and it helps you buy product. And actually, my joke that I was telling people is actually the right thing to do now is probably to go buy Amazon stock, because every one of these businesses, every time they sell something, Amazon takes a cut of it.
Got it. And we have a question from Tim Wong. What was one big mistake that you made early on, and how did you overcome it?
Mistake? I don't think I've made, any mistakes. I've done a lot of things that didn't work. I don't really call them mistakes because they're not mistakes because I didn't know what I was doing. So a lot of these things. You look at the bookstore website, right? That actually didn't go very far. It went to the point where it broke even, then I kind of gave up on it. Maybe the mistake is I didn't push it far enough. The other thing that I think I can do better is I can probably get more done, be more productive. So that's one of the things I'd like to do. Another thing that I wish I'd done was started a business earlier, even in college. That would have been great just to learn from that. So those are kind of things. I take little calculated risks. So the mistakes or the failures I have aren't very big. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm far from it. Just a lot of little mistakes.
Okay. So you kind of touched on another question, but Whitney asked, if you were to go back in time, would you start your entrepreneurial journey right after college, or would you have waited to save some money while working in corporate?
That's a good question. I think you can go either way with this. There's pros and cons of both. For me, I think for me it was different because when I got out of college in 2000, the internet wasn't that big. Actually, Amazon had just started, and they were just selling books. And they had a really ugly-looking website. I have seen some of the old things. So there's a lot less of the opportunity that we have now. I don't think Google was going yet in 2000. And so for me, I think it would be better to start work first. For you, it might be a different story. I think you've got all these tools, you being a college student, not you personally necessarily, but just there's a lot more opportunities and a lot more ways you can make money in businesses that you couldn't back when I was first getting out of school. Now, if you shift everything 10 years or 14 years forward, then make a different story. Maybe I started right out of school.
Alrighty. We have a question from Ronald. He says, do you feel the typical Asian American background provides any advantages in entrepreneurship? Maybe something you didn't notice when you started?
Flip the question around. Interesting. The one thing, I think I touched on this, the family values of supporting family through thick and thin. I think that was one that really helped me out. That's a great positive value of the Asian culture. Another thing is there's a lot of entrepreneurial thinking in Asian culture. I mean, look at all the immigrants. I was talking about my parents. A lot of people came and started restaurants. There is the entrepreneurial feeling out there. And and then not to perpetuate a stereotype, but being good at math helps too. You got to be able to figure out if you're making money or not, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's plenty of good things as well.
Okay. And then another question from Tim Wong. He asked, it is oftentimes said that an entrepreneur must wear a lot of hats, i.e. take on different types of roles. Do you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree with that. When I introduce myself to people, I say, yeah, I'm the president of Wild Thing Enterprises, president, CEO, CFO, CMO, quality assurance, R&D, janitor, all of the above. So yes, you absolutely do. If you're the type that has trouble sticking with one job, or if you're the type that just kind of knows a little about everything, you should definitely look into doing something entrepreneurial. It helps a lot to be that broad focused. And this one thing that I didn't fit well with a big company was they kind of wanted you to be specific and really develop expertise in one area, and that didn't fit me as well. So I absolutely agree.
All right, sounds good. We'll take a couple more questions since it's a 5-minute warning for our 7 p.m. end call. August asked, what was the worst thing that you've encountered in doing your business? Did you almost quit, or what other scenarios?
So last October, I thought about putting this in the presentation. Last October was probably the furthest down I've been. This is about 2 months into my full-time entrepreneurship. What had happened was before Amazon, before I discovered Amazon fulfillment, actually, I was trying to sell the formula, the Bucko, into Ace Hardware stores, and I actually got into 4 Ace Hardware stores in Cincinnati. So it taught me how to do sales, cold call sales, which is fun, not very fun, but I actually when I came back to Milwaukee, I actually tried about 4 or 5 different stores here, and they all rejected me, and they were all, a couple of them were just kind of, they were a little bit impatient with me, and I don't blame them because they're busy, and I'm here trying to sell a product, and they never heard of me. So that was, you kind of take that. And then I actually tried to go on a quilting board to talk about this product, because the Ironing Sync product, which I was working on, it actually used to be a different product that people loved. So I posted on there, hey, I'm looking, how many people here love this product? I'm looking to get this back again, bring it back. Are you interested in trying it out? And I thought I was doing the world a favor. I got an email back from the person that owned the board saying, how dare you write on my board asking for product, selling your products, don't ever talk to me again. So after that, I kind of just took the rest of the day off after that. That was probably a downside. And actually, it wasn't until about April until I finally decided, hey, this just might work. And April was when I got all my product into Amazon fulfillment, where you can use Amazon Prime to buy the product. It was touch and go all the way up until then. I was starting to get my resume out, and sometimes I'm like, I can just end this and just go get a full-time paid job. It happened. I thought about it so many times before April. So yes, it definitely, it's definitely a struggle.
So then, touching upon your Amazon experience, getting your product shipped through Amazon, like how did you get started? Was it more of just fill out an application, or did you have to have certain credentials or quota? And this is a question from Marika.
Yeah, Amazon actually is surprisingly lax on this stuff. You can send anything you want in there. It used to be like eBay. You just do whatever. They're starting to try to tighten up a little bit because there's so many people doing it. But they're actually really easy to get stuff on. If you're going into certain categories, a little harder. You have to send in, safety MSDS sheets, material safety data sheets. You have to get ungated, unlocked. But otherwise, it is relatively easy. And even if it's not Amazon, there's also Etsy, there's also eBay, there's all these other sites out there that you can get something out there just to test to see if it'll sell or
not. Got it. And then last question for the evening, and for all those who still have unanswered questions, we will be sending these to Dale so that he could give some brief responses so that everyone gets all their answers. So the last question comes from Jean Lowe. She asked, are your products available to ship outside of the U.S.? What challenges does this pose to you, and why have you decided not to offer them internationally?
So the answer is No, it's not available outside the U.S. at this point. One problem is because it's very heavy. It's mostly water, so it's very heavy, and shipping it across borders is the shipping itself is pretty expensive, and that's why with Amazon it helps so much. But yeah, I think definitely going outside. Amazon actually does have other countries that you can actually sell to other countries. So they are working on that as well. And, it's definitely something in the future that I could look at. Actually, a funny story. Last year, I actually took a road trip out to Colorado to go visit Gene and folks out there. And I actually brought a whole trunk full of Bucko cleaners to ship as I was driving out there and back. And this year, when I took the road trip down to Dallas, I did not have to do that. Amazon took care of that for me. So yeah, I made some progress over a year. But hope that answers your question.
Alrighty.
Yeah, feel free to send some more. I mean, like
I think
you got the Facebook page, you got my email. Let's just keep the conversation going. And if you go on the Facebook page, maybe other people that are more experienced than me can also help chime in with answers as well.
Got it. Sounds good. We'll be sure to let everyone know. And with that being said, it is 7 o'clock. Thank you very much for everyone who was able to join us tonight. And thank you, Dale, for being a wonderful presenter on entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And just as a reminder to everyone to update all of you on NAP webinars, we will be taking a break in September, so hang tight. We are going to be figuring out what other great content and what other great speakers we could bring out and help you guys grow your business, build your careers. And we are looking to launch a NAP online content platform. So if you got a business, you want to promote a business or build your own personal brand in a certain field or industry, be on the lookout for email updates. So with that being said, this is Lee Chang, your Director of Online Experience at NAP National. Thank you once again for joining us tonight for our August webinar.